Hey everybody, welcome back to In Bed with a Millennial. I'm the Millennial Javeda Bay, and this is my bed. And it is April, which means it's STI Awareness Month. And my goal all this month is to destigmatize and push back on all the shame surrounding STIs. Because why? For what? Why are they a thing? There's no good reason. They are commonplace in our world, in our society. They just happen to be a potential byproduct of engaging in sexual activity. There's no shame in that. Just like riding a bike, you could potentially fall off and scrape your knee. Engaging in sexual activity, you could potentially contract an STI. No shame. So we're going to talk about it all this month to make it so that we don't have this stigma and shame around it. So let's get into it. First things first, Javay, how often should someone be getting STI tested? Well, I am so glad you asked. It's going to depend on your relationship status, how sexually active you are, and a variety of different things. But if you are someone who is regularly engaging in sexual activity, whether that be casual sex or just like a wide variety of partners, because you got a stacked roster and you're like, I like to get it, I salute you. And also, you should be doing it every 3 to 6 months. And this is because certain STIs may not show up immediately on an STI test. So if you do it every 3 to 6 months, you can actively keep an eye on things and be aware of what's happening within your body. Okay. Also, if you're regularly engaging with multiple people, like unless you are all detailing who you're sharing with and how often their partners are having STI tests, it's just best for you to do your due diligence and be responsible for yourself. So going every 3 to 6 months allows that. If you were someone that's in a long-term relationship, this can be monogamous or non-monogamous depending on the conversation y'all have set up and like all of those different parameters. At least annually is a recommendation for long-term relationships. Annually in the sense that you are assuming that they are not cheating on you and all this stuff. And in the terms of non-monogamous relationships, if you and your partners have had conversations in terms of like how often everyone is getting tested or how often they're sleeping with other individuals, annually could work. But if it's more complex in your non-monogamous relationships, I recommend sticking to 3 to 6 just to keep your bases covered, have a peace of mind. But if it were a monogamous long-term relationship, annually should do, as long as everyone's communicating and people are not actively cheating. If you are getting into a new relationship, it's recommended to actually get STI tested before you engage in sexual activity with that new partner. And this is for a variety of reasons. Depending on like the last time you had sex, things may have shown up that weren't on a previous test, but also just like a peace of mind and comfort to know like, hey, we both have our STI testing, we can do what we want. It also makes the conversation easier around how you want to engage with each other. Are y'all using barrier methods? Are y'all like, nah, we raw dogging it, we doing what we want to do because like, got an IUD, we're not making babies, we could just have some fun because I like being bred, breeding cake, all of those different things. So if you get tested together before you actually engage in sexual activity, all those bases are covered and you can have your relationship be whatever you want it to look like. And then if you have previously had a positive STI test, so you got tested, it came back and you got a positive, and it was something curable. So it was like chlamydia or gonorrhea. You took your week long of antibiotics, and then it's recommended that you go back and get another test in 6 months just to make sure everything is cleared up. You haven't it wasn't retransmitted to you by a partner and things of that nature. If it is retransmitted, maybe you should encourage your partner to go get tested if they have not and they're the only person that you're sleeping with. So just pay attention to that. But if you do get a positive STI panel, which is extremely common, go ahead and go back and get tested again in 6 months. And just to normalize the STI testing. So I am in a monogamous marriage currently, not seeing anyone else, only sleeping with my partner. But every time I go to the gynecologist, I still get STI tested. Also, because we are here to destigmatize and push back on the shame. I contracted chlamydia in undergrad, and definitely did not respond as I would today if I were to contract chlamydia, because I was in my early 20s and like did not have proper sex education, and it was the end of the world. And thank goodness for my mother, who actually, when I called her and I was like bawling and shared the news, she's like, it's okay, you're gonna take your medicine, it's all gonna be good, you're totally fine. So just know, like, if you do get a positive STI test, it's not the end of the world. STIs are either curable or manageable. So just take a deep breath and know that you're not alone. Plenty of people are having the same experience as you at the same time or have previously had the same experience as you. So now that you know how often you should be getting STI testing done, how exactly is it done? Very important because a lot of people don't know. And it can be a little intimidating if you're like, I'm going to go do this thing and I have no context of how this thing is done, you know? So there are 3 different ways that you can get STI testing. You can get blood test, urine test, or swab test done. And each one tests for different things. So first option, blood test. A STI blood test is going to test for herpes, syphilis, HIV, and hepatitis B. So that means that you do have to go into wherever you're getting your testing done, and they were going to draw blood and they're going to test from a blood sample. So if you are someone that doesn't like needles, this is an important thing to know, that that is how they are going to test for a good number of STIs. You're going to want to drink your water beforehand to make the blood draw process easier. But yes, blood being drawn is one way that they test for STIs. The next way is going to be a urine test. So a urine test is going to test for trichomoniasis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia. So this means that you just go in to wherever you're getting your testing done. They're going to have you pee in a cup. You fill it up, put the lid on. They will do the testing of that sample. But all you got to do is make sure that, again, you drank your water and you're well hydrated enough to actually go to the bathroom, and you don't have to worry about anything else. There's no needle picking, prodding, or none of that. But that's only if you're getting those 3 tests done. The next test is going to be a swab. So this could be a swab of the tip of the penis, like the head of the penis where the urethral opening is. It can be a swab of the vaginal canal, and also a swab of the anus. A swab test is going to test for chlamydia, gonorrhea, trichomoniasis, syphilis, and herpes. Now, I want to put a little asterisk next to herpes because you typically will not get a swab test done of herpes unless you are actively having an outbreak and there are lesions on your body that they can actually swab to test to see which strain of herpes it is. I'm not going to get into a conversation of herpes right now. That's coming next week. But yes, so you can get tested for herpes via a swab of lesion. And then the last type of test is actually a cervical exam, and this is strictly done for HPV testing. So there's no other way to get HPV testing done currently. That's not true. The last type of STI testing that can be done is a cervical test. And a cervical test is strictly going to be for HPV. So they swab the cervix to test and look at the cells from the cervix to see if there are any abnormal cells from HPV being present. So now you know how testing happens, how often you should get it. Now the best question of all, where can you get tested? Well, if you are someone that actively has a doctor and insurance, going to your primary care provider is a great option. One, it's someone you already have a relationship with. And hopefully it is a sex positive relationship where they do not shame you for anything you're doing. And they just support you and give you the information you need. So going to your primary care provider is one option. You can also go to places like urgent cares and clinics in your area to get STI testing done. You also have things like Planned Parenthood, which are available. You can make an appointment, go in, get some STI testing, and get out. You also have diagnostic labs. So if you have ever heard of like Quest Diagnostics, you can actually make your own appointment. You don't have to be referred there. And then you can just go in and be like, hey, I would like an STI. I would like a full panel STI testing done. And they can do that for you there without you having to go and find a new doctor and all that jazz if you don't already have it. And then lastly, you, of course, if you live in a major metropolitan city, typically there are LGBTQ centers, and you can go to them and get testing done there as well. And they have like the full gambit of STI testing because they are inclusive of all relationships and sexual orientations and things of that nature. So they're actually really great places to go. I used to go to the LGBTQ center in Los Angeles when I lived there all the time to get my STI testing done, and it was always an amazing experience. And a lot of it is like self-done testing. So you do your own swabs. You don't actually have to have a doctor do it on you and things of that nature. So if you're someone that's like, I really don't want someone else all up in me, maybe check and look for an STI. I mean, check and look for an LGBTQ center near you. And lastly, where to get STI tested. You run to good old Google and you type in STI testing near me and you get a good long list of resources that way as well. But yeah, as you can see, STI testing, it's nice, short, simple, straight to the point, easy breezy, as long as you know you can handle getting blood drawn. Easy peasy, no problem whatsoever. So maybe don't be so nervous. It's not as bad as it may seem. And honestly, it doesn't take that long. Depending on where you go, you could be in and out of there in 20 minutes or less. So yeah, that's STI testing. What else do you want to know about STI testing? Let me know in the comments. Send me an email, slide into them Instagram DMs, whatever you want to do. I'm here to answer your questions because we are destigmatizing and pushing back on the shame all month long. So make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel and following me on Instagram and TikTok and everywhere else. And yeah, I'm gonna see y'all later. Deuces.